Hello everybody, my name's Nicholas, but it's Nick for short, and today we're talking about one of my favorite parts of the entire Sonic series, Chow. You know what they are, I know what they are, but just remember, don't tell your parents what they are. The adventure era of Sonic titles was defined by a few things. Firstly, their evolution of Sonic's gameplay into the third dimension. Second was creating mature, engaging narratives to supplement that gameplay. Last and most perplexingly was pet simulation. This video isn't a deep dive into the sophistication within the mechanics of the Chao Garden, but I just want to talk about why I love raising these adorable little marshmallows, and why this isn't just some random minigame, but rather how the seemingly out-of-place pet simulation is actually the ultimate supplement to Sonic the Hedgehog gameplay. This is the Chao Garden, the key to replayability. To begin, let's discuss the in-game stages and what those have to do with the Chao Garden. These are the Chao boxes, easily one of my favorite aspects of the level design. There are 3 boxes per stage, each one containing different contents. The first box you break has a Chao key, allowing you to access the garden after the completion of a stage. The second you break contains a different assortment of animals for you to give to your Chao, typically themed after the stage's environment. The final box contains a legendary animal, like a phoenix or a unicorn. These animals, alongside chaos drives you collect after destroying enemies, are what allow you to upgrade your Chow's attributes. As for what those attributes are, well, I'll go in depth on those later. Now, what makes this so spectacular is whenever it comes to Sonic's gameplay, what's always separated him from other platformers was his speed. The problem with this is that whenever it comes to level design, a balance must be struck with fast-paced platforming and a fun sense of exploration by exploring the large landscapes. You've heard this all before. Fast yet open level design was perfected back in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, then expertly translated to 3D with Sonic Adventure, but Sonic Adventure 2 took a very different approach to its level design. It was all about the speed and spectacle at the cost of some exploration. Now, I personally prefer the SA1 approach to level design, but I'm going to praise SA2 for giving the player what is, in my opinion, something even better than exploration, and that is a reason to keep replaying the levels. When it comes to larger, more explorative levels, they are very gratifying to complete, but they are also often pretty long, so grinding for animals and chaos drives isn't as enticing given the larger commitment. That's not to say that it couldn't work using larger levels and still having a Chao Garden, but I think some aspects would need to be tweaked to streamline the process. Although more individually enjoyable, larger levels are always going to be a bigger commitment than the fast-paced linear levels of SA2. So, having fast-paced, straightforward levels are a lot easier to wrap your head around and to speed through. That means that you can play through these stages over and over again, mastering your skill each time, and yet you're still being rewarded with animals for the Chao Garden. But the point I'm trying to make is this. As rewarding as item boxes and extra lives are, they're never going to help you get a girlfriend. But the short, fast-paced levels of SA2 incentivize you to raise Chao, to milk countless more hours of fun out of the game, and who doesn't love a guy who's good with animals? So what exactly is the purpose of raising a Chao? Why raise this thing other than the obvious, which is to love and care for it as a thoughtful caretaker? But besides, not all of us can be that pure of heart, but I'm sure we can all get behind some fictional dogfighting. Because that's why you all play Pokemon, isn't it, you filthy abusers? Well, lucky for you, that's where Chao races and karate come into play. Personally, I've never been very into pet simulation, but the leveling up and competition aspect is what really got me invested in raising these little critters. But how exactly do we prepare our Chao for entering the ring or the racetrack? Well, here's where the Chao attributes come into play. Chao have 5 distinct traits: swim, fly, run, power, and stamina. These are pretty self-explanatory as what they do, but each one is equally as valuable as its other. Using the different animals or chaos drives, depending on what their type is, will increase your Chao stats. Chaos drives only level up one specific stat, but only by very little. On the bright side to this, they have very little detriment to the other stats. Animals, however, increase the stats by a substantial amount, sometimes even more than one, but they have much larger drawbacks to other stats. Essentially, if you want to increase the fly stat, then your swimming stat may be affected, and depending on if you use an animal or a drive determines the significance of both the level up and the level down. But stamina is the unsung hero of Chao competition. By feeding your Chao fruit, their stamina increases, and that allows better performance in every category. Although there are other attributes that you don't see, like luck and intelligence, those don't have much bearing on the game from my understanding at least. The ultimate goal is to raise every stat as high as possible in order to conquer the racetrack and the ring. I'm not that big a fan of Chow Karate because, to be frank, it's always been pretty boring visually and the aspects of your stats aren't as visible. The races, however, I absolutely love. In order to show off the racetracks, I'd like to introduce you to Ajax. This little monster is easily one of the most spoiled, disobedient children I've ever seen in my life. But that ego isn't entirely unfounded, undoubtedly because of his ability in the racetrack. To start, we must conquer the beginner courses, and these are all pretty easy. Each one is specifically tied to one feature of your Chow. For example, there's a race where it's all about swimming, or rock climbing, or running, etc. And by completing different races, your Chow gets different items to be used in the garden itself. For instance, Ajax can now plant trees with the items he earned from winning, not to mention a medal from winning every single race on the highest level of difficulty. Midway through recording this, my mom just brought me a cookie, and I'm not gonna lie, pretty good. Thank you, Mom. But it's here in the second Gauntlet where things really get interesting. This is where all of your Chow's abilities are put to the test in tandem with one another, and it's this very real sense of progression that makes raising a Chow feel more rewarding. One of the reasons I think raising a Chow is so gratifying as a player is the feedback loop. The better you perform in the main stages, collecting animals, drives, and exploring every nook and cranny is all to your Chow's benefit. It makes the act of leveling up your Chow feel a lot more purposeful. And although you do not control the races, all you can really do is give your Chow a little boost at the cost of some of their stamina meter. Putting this restriction on the game mode was undoubtedly for the best. It makes the Chow feel a lot more independent, and thus, you feel a greater responsibility to do your best outside of the garden. It makes replaying the levels immensely more gratifying, which in turn makes the entirety of SA2 a more worthwhile experience during the post-game. And let's be frank here, there are a lot of incredibly deep and sophisticated aspects of Chow evolution, reincarnation, breeding, types, all of it goes so much further than the game gives itself credit for, but I find that these aren't important to enjoy the overall experience. As someone who really enjoys the Chow Garden, I enjoy going behind the scenes and figuring out how to create the best specific type of Chow, but it's in no way necessary to enjoy the full extent of what the garden has to offer. Aside from game design elements and hard facts about what you do in the Chow Garden, what did the developers do to make this bond feel real? As I said previously, raising these little gremlins can be a rewarding experience all in itself. Creating a connection with your pet is the #1 factor of any pet simulation. If the player doesn't feel they're raising a real creature, then it becomes an empty and worthless experience. But luckily, raising a Chow is anything but. This is the kindergarten, a place where you can drop off your overpowered Chow because you finally realized how neglectful you've been to its brothers and sisters. The school is a very simple little menu type area, but what's really worth mentioning here is the classroom and black market. By taking a Chow to the classroom, you can leave it there to learn a variety of random tasks, like playing an instrument or even dancing. This adds so much personality to your Chow and gives you a real sense of accomplishment, knowing you took good care of this little companion of yours. Seeing their emotion ball turn into a heart as you pet them to congratulate them, there's no feeling more rewarding in a Sonic game. Buying more Chow eggs to put into your garden is always fun, especially to get a specific color you want, all while confirming that this adorable little demon here probably stole these children from their homes. Other things you can purchase are seeds for specific trees that grow specific types of fruit, accessories for them to rock, and different types of fruit. There's a lot of stuff whenever it comes to talking about the Chow Garden that I didn't mention because I really think that they'll be a lot more rewarding for you to experience them yourself. I began my Chow raising adventures back on the 360 and then fell in love with the game mode, discovering the effects that different characters have on Chow alignment, how Chow personalities can be gentle or spoiled rotten, even the different gardens associated with both the hero and evil sides. There's a reason that 20 years later the fanbase not only loves to see Chow make appearances in mainline titles, but demand for a return to the Chow Garden to this day. Sonic Adventure 2 was already a worthwhile experience of a game, worth your time and money, but the garden from a game design perspective doubles the value with each action. Each enemy killed, ring collected, box destroyed is now worth infinitely more than a simple way to increase your score and rankings. The Chow Garden took an already iconic game and then added the equivalent of a second game inside the exact same package. And that is why I love the Chow Garden. And that is why I believe that the Chow Garden is an excellent example of not just great post-game content, but via extension, the key to replayability.